This is the heartless one, the evil monster.
This was one of the worst cases I've ever had in 19 years of police work. This one does not make sense to me.
It was just too strange, too baffling for it not to leave a lasting impact in your head about how does this happen?
You had to break their bones to get them in there.
And when they tried to lift the girls up, their skin came off.
Is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen.
I've cried more for them than he has.
Ini bukanlah berita biasa, namun benar-benar kisah nyata yang menggemparkan dunia dan dinyatakan hakim sebagai kasus yang paling tidak manusiawi dan tidak masuk akal bagi polisi, yang akan kita kupas secara eksklusif, lebih lengkap, full rekaman dan video asli dalam tayangan dokumenter edisi khusus Kisah Nyata Dunia sesaat lagi hanya di YouTube K Channel, membuka jendela dunia.
I'm doing my speech on relationship deterioration and repair. Sometimes when you get married, that the lust and the desire kind of falls by the wayside a little bit. You no longer experience closeness, and you feel you might do better with someone else that you've met. Support each other, positive evaluations, positive feelings. Always disclose your feelings, as I said. You have to ask yourself 3 questions when you're in a relationship. Do I have a desire to keep this relationship going? Do I have a moral obligation to stay in this relationship? Or is it a necessity for me to stay in this relationship?
Hi, Stacey. My name's Nicole, and I'm calling because I'm concerned about a friend of mine. She's 15 weeks pregnant, and she wasn't feeling well over the weekend, and I have called and texted. I've come to her house. She's not answering the door. She's not responding to text messages, phone calls. I've had other friends reach out to her. None of us can get her to respond to us, and her car's here. What's her name? Shanann Watts. And her husband's name? His name is Chris Watts.
How you guys doing?
Hi.
Here, Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. What's going on?
So, my friend, we were out of town for a business trip this weekend.
All right.
And I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She was very distraught over the weekend, wasn't eating normally or drinking, and we kept trying to force it on her.
Shannon, are you home?
She had a doctor's appointment this morning at 9, and she didn't come to the doctor's appointment.
Okay. No answer on the phone. Husband's on his way. How you doing? You seen your neighbors today? No? Okay. We're just trying to get a hold of her. Like she wasn't feeling too good. They were just concerned. Police department, if anyone's inside, make yourself known.
Even before Nicole called Frederick Police, she had reached out to Shanann's husband. His response to her was, oh, she was going on a play date today with the girls, she must be there. She told him that she was going to call the police, and Watt's response was, well, hold on a minute, I'm on my way back, I'll be there in 45 minutes.
Scott, how you doing?
How's it going?
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
Only one that,
She would drive? Okay.
From the beginning, Chris Watts was very compliant and very cooperative. That allowed us to search the Watts residence.
In all missing person investigations, we usually want to start from the inside out. The people that are closest to the person that's missing, the person that last saw that person that's missing, Chris Watts, by his own words, was the last person that saw Shanann Watts.
Mind if I come in, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. You checked upstairs, she's not there. I just want to make sure she's not passed out somewhere. Is she diabetic? Her parents are out of state?
Across country, North Carolina.
Oh.
Yes, that's not happening. blanket they sleep with. They don't leave anywhere without them.
Good.
Her phone.
Her phone's here? Her phone's here.
Does she work?
Yeah, she works from home.
Oh, from home. What do you do?
I work at oil gas and trucker.
What do you do for them?
Operator.
There was no note or anything by the wedding ring? This is her purse?
That's her purse. It's her medication. She takes these, her medication's still in here.
Along with the purse and Shanann's own medications, Celeste had a very significant allergy, causing Shanann to have to take with her an EpiPen everywhere she went. That EpiPen's on the countertop.
The people that know Shanann know that she was very attached to her cell phone. That was something that she would never leave the house without. And to have the purse, her car, the car seats, all of those things still left in, very, very strange.
While the officers are still over at the Watts home, they're contacted by the Watts neighbor, Nathan.
The neighbor over there said he has a camera that sees out on the street. Is this on continually recording?
Yep. Well,
It's not, is it motion or is it? Okay, it's motion.
any motion event that happens, but I get cars driving from this street, At 5:27 a.m., I had noticed that there was a motion on my camera of Chris backing his truck up into the driveway and then into the garage.
The camera on the front of Nathan's house shows that truck leaving at 5:45. And the part of a thorough investigation at a very early stage is creating a timeline. What time did the husband leave? Where was the wife? Where were the children at these particular times? And they're really starting to fill in those gaps.
What the video shows is Chris making several trips from the garage out to the driver's side of the vehicle, which is on the other side of the car from the angle that the camera is placed. So you can't see what, if anything, he's putting in the car per se.
You know, for the rest of the day.
That's it.
She's pregnant as well.
How far along?
15 weeks.
Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant with a little boy that she was going to name Nico.
No.
Back and forth, and if you look, he never looks his stuff in and out of the garage ever.
Right.
He's normally, you can ask them, he's normally quiet and wants to do. He never talks. So the fact that he's over here blabbing his mouth makes me kind of suspicious.
Yeah, but I mean, put yourself in his situation.
Oh, I agree.
You know, anyone's going to be nervous. You don't know what to do.
Chris, I had noticed that he wasn't watching the tape. He was looking down at his phone a lot. He was looking away a lot. And every time he did say something, he was trying to prove a point. I definitely was watching Chris's body language. And at that point in time, he definitely could have been freaking out because his wife was gone and his children were gone. I just personally thought the way he was acting was a little strange. As a father, like, my eyes would have never left that screen.
On Monday, August 13th, we had a missing pregnant mom and her 2 young daughters. The pregnant mom was named Shanann Watts, and her little girls, Bella, who was 4, and Celeste, who was 3, were also missing.
Lantas tim kepolisian Frederick segera bergerak melakukan upaya pencarian awal dengan mencari informasi di lingkungan sekitar sambil menyebarkan selebaran yang memuat foto Shanann dan putri-putrinya sebagai orang hilang.
The Frederick Police Department, they did a neighborhood canvass, they knocked on a lot of doors, they started contacting businesses in the area that might have surveillance video.
How are you? What's going on?
We are looking for her and for her kids.
Have you seen this lady?
Oh my gosh, no, I've seen it on Facebook.
Facebook? Okay. Hi, Officer Ryan to the Frederick Police Department. We were out earlier and left a flyer on your door?
Yes.
Does she live in the area? She does. Yep.
Anything different over the last, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days?
vehicles, odd noises, odd lights.
There was a truck out here yesterday. In fact, that's why I thought you were here yesterday. Maybe someone complained about.
What type of truck?
It was kind of almost steel gray. The dad has a great big truck and it's gray.
Dan itu terjadi pada dini hari ketika Chris menghabiskan waktu lebih dari 50 menit hanya untuk memasukkan barang-barang ke dalam mobilnya. Tepat beberapa jam sebelum istri dan putri-putrinya dilaporkan menghilang.
Definitely hoping to catch Shanann leaving with Bella and Celeste. I was hoping we might catch somebody coming and picking them up to take them on a play date like Chris had said, but we had picked up no other motion or anything like that coming from their house.
A dark mystery in Frederick, Colorado.
Concern in Frederick right now about a pregnant woman who's missing along with her 2 daughters.
We really needed to go back into the Watts residence and do a thorough forensic search of that house.
Okay, Chris, so we need to have everybody step out of the house.
Okay, because we don't want the dog to get confused with all the stuff
Correct.
going on.
So you can leave that there. You can leave your camera there.
I'll bring it
Okay,
upstairs.
we just...
I don't want to mess you guys up at all.
There's an upstairs, yep. All the bedrooms are upstairs.
Almost seems like this place is a little bit too immaculate to be normal.
It's amazingly clean.
Chris was compliant, cooperative. Our CSIs went in and searched for evidence, blood stains, signs of cleanup. We didn't see signs of struggle in the house. Things weren't knocked over. Things weren't broken and damaged. They are really organized people. We did notice the top sheet of the bed was missing, which we thought was a little out of place considering how clean everything else was. We didn't find any evidence inside the house.
I think Ronnie called me. Ronnie called me and said that they're missing, and I thought, I don't believe it. I didn't believe they were missing. I believed that she was going to punish Chris. She was just going to punish him, take the girls, and just punish him. I had no idea of anything else. Christopher called and said, Mom, they're searching the house. I said, okay, that's fine. I mean, and I still was not worried. I was not worried. I just thought Shanann had run off with girls.
Tonight, police issued a missing endangered alert for Shannon Watts and her 2 daughters. Her husband says she's been missing since Monday morning.
I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. I just want them back. I just want them to come back. And if they're not safe right now, that's what's tearing me apart. Because if they are safe, they're coming back. But if they're not, this has got to stop. Like, somebody has to come forward.
So we're all watching Chris's first interview basically live on the 5 o'clock news.
I want everybody to just come home. Right, wherever they're at, come home. That's what I want. Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back.
The concern that he professed to have for his wife and kids seemed very feigned, seemed very cold and calculated. Even though people grieved differently, he was so extraordinarily calm.
If my family was missing, I would be an absolute wreck. So the fact that he was clean cut, real calm, real cool, kind of seemed collected, definitely put a big red flag up for me.
I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
The grieving father and husband left behind.
I have no idea where they went.
They did a close-in shot. His eyes were neither red nor swollen. This was not a man that had been up all night, worried and crying.
He also gave
smiles and laughter that was completely improper when he was talking about Bella. He says, she was. That's final. As an investigator, that jumps out. He knows that she's already gone.
And watch him licking his lips. Psychologically, he's trying to wipe away everything he's saying.
The Frederick Police Department reached out to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, as well as the FBI, and requested assistance with the missing person investigation. We ran criminal histories on both Chris Watts and Shanann Watts. Neither one of them had a criminal record. So part of the investigation, I needed to know who Shanann was, and so I started looking at her Facebook page.
Hey everybody, say hi. Say hi.
Hello.
Hey guys, my name is Shanann Watts. Say hi, Cece. Say hi, Bells.
Hi, Bells.
No, you gotta say hi.
Hi.
And I just want you guys to know a little bit of my story. I was in a place for a long time where I felt very insecure. I was married, went through a really awful divorce, and that relationship really took a lot from me. It took my confidence. It took everything. It literally took everything. But I'm not a quitter. And my goal was to buy a house. My family doesn't come from money. We always worked hard for what we had. And so I worked and worked and worked and worked. And I was 25 years old when I built my first house. And that was the biggest accomplishment I felt I've ever done because I did it by myself. I did it by working my tail off. 10 years ago, I went from being super energetic, super happy. I started losing a lot of my hair. I felt like I had the flu all the time. I felt miserable. And then I was diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease. I was diagnosed with some health challenges, and then I met Chris. I was in a really, really, really bad place, and I got a friend request from Chris on Facebook, and I was like, oh, what the heck, I'm never gonna meet him. Accept. And 8 years later, we have 2 kids, we live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
He played sports from the time he was 5 years old up until he was 17. And he was in basketball, he was in baseball, he was in football, and loved sports. And he was a good kid. He was quiet, and he got along with people. He was a perfect teenager, tell you. They met, and he liked her, she liked him, but I don't think it was love at first sight or anything. They took a little while and I guess got to know each other and, dated. It was always a little strange that she always said a lot of things about Chris in front of me that I didn't like. Like, this isn't the kind of person I would date. He doesn't know how to do this, or he doesn't know how to do that. It was just on and on and on, and I just got a bad feeling.
And they got married in 2012. Did they get married in North Carolina?
They did. Mm-hmm.
How was that?
We didn't attend.
Really?
Mm-mm. We didn't attend because Shanann and I just couldn't get along. And I didn't like the way she treated him.
When I met Chris, I pushed him away, but he stuck around. And he stuck around because he was the one for me. got here after visiting, fell in love with the area. It's gorgeous in Colorado.
Shanann was definitely a people person. She had a great laugh, a great smile, a great sense of humor. And she was a very loving, caring, outgoing person. Chris worked for an oil company. He was a mechanic. And Chris was quiet, but he was real friendly about helping people with the cars and stuff like that. And Shanann was a marketing person who was able to work from her house. That's what gave her the opportunity to stay at home with her children, which was her number one. They had the 2.5 kids, they had a nice, beautiful house, they both had great careers that, from what it seemed, that they definitely loved. And they just seemed to be that all-American great family.
I could only observe what I saw when I was around them. Christopher always seemed anxious, and when she needed something, I mean, he would run. He wouldn't walk, he would run, he would get it. He just always seemed to be right there. It was very odd. He just seemed nervous.
But this guy right here, he's gonna do all the dishes.
That's me.
I always say I have more patience for children than I do adults, and I guess that goes for my husband. He's such a great guy to put up with me over the years. Hey Santa, where's your phone?
In the garage. Oh.
Sit down, Santa, have a seat. I'll try to get the kids. That's Cece, Bella? Say Cece?
Probably twice a year. We would go up there. We would stay with them and stay a week and then come back home.
Nice. Go eat turtle. I got turtle.
Bella was just like Chris. Just like him, shy, conservative. Cece was a ball of fire. I mean, she was fearless, completely fearless. She just loved to run. So they were wonderful. It breaks my heart to know that they're not here. They were beautiful children, beautiful children.
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong. He reads me books. He ties my shoes. My daddy, I love you. Daddy? I'm Papa.
You talking to Papa?
And Mommy.
And Mommy?
Yes.
I really wasn't a big conflict person. I always lived for other people until recently. Now I live for me and for my family, my kids. I live for them.
It was obvious she loved being a mom, she loved being a wife, and she loved what she did for work.
Shanann lived her entire life through social media, through her phone. It was very unlike Shanann not to answer the phone, not to at least send a text. And so that, I think, raised the level of concern and fear very early on in this process.
We had already predetermined that Special Agent Coder with the FBI would conduct the initial interview of Chris Watts at the police department, and then he would request that I conduct a polygraph with Chris later on.
Dan ketika Chris sedang berada di ruang interogasi untuk dimintai keterangannya oleh agen FBI, tim kepolisian masih terus melakukan upaya pencarian di sejumlah daerah dengan membawa anjing-anjing pelacak. Mereka juga terus menyebarkan selebaran tentang Shanann dan putri-putrinya yang menghilang.
We're just handing out flyers on this missing person.
Flyer with the missing lady and her kiddos. You know her?
Crime scene analysts are still combing through Chris's residence. We're still following up on leads. Witnesses are being interviewed. Tips are coming in. And obviously, we were hoping so much that Shanann would just show up with the girls.
Pada saat ini, berbagai media berdatangan untuk terjun langsung ke lokasi, meliput perkembangan hilangnya ibu hamil dan 2 putrinya, seiring dengan meningkatnya kecemasan masyarakat luas, khususnya keluarga dan warga sekitar.
about the woman children that went missing on Monday over here?
Yeah, it's all over Facebook.
This is a very visible effort on the part of Frederick Police to make sure the word is out about Shanann.
This is something that happens in the movies. My next door neighbors are actually missing. That's a hard pill to swallow. You start thinking about things like they don't have their medicine, she doesn't have her wallet, how is she staying somewhere, she doesn't have keys, she doesn't have any money. But of course you hold on to that hope, but deep down it was like something is wrong.
Tim kepolisian juga menyisir daerah ladang minyak milik perusahaan di mana Chris bekerja. Karena daerah ini disebut Chris adalah tempat ia berada pada pagi hari saat ia tertangkap kamera CCTV tetangganya yang hendak pergi ke area ini. Dan di sini, polisi menemukan spray putih kotor. Lalu mereka membawa spray putih itu untuk dilakukan pemeriksaan lebih lanjut.
At that point, we had Shanann's phone, and some of the things that we were learning from going through Shanann's phone is that she'd been talking to a lot of her girlfriends about Chris becoming very distant. They had even talked about counseling, and Chris was resistant.
So I know it's hard to talk about. You mentioned that there was a hard conversation the two of you had about your marriage. Can you really get into that conversation with me?
I talked to her about how I was feeling, about how I felt like what's been going on with us for the last 6 weeks, because she was in North Carolina and I was down there just the last week. But just being apart and just like figuring out who people are. It's like the best, honestly, like the best way for people to really find out who they are is when we were together, we could feel like it wasn't there, that spark, and that's why I got so emotional right there.
Okay. Emotional for you too?
Oh yeah, I was bawling my eyes out.
And here we are now. She and the kids are gone.
I think about like, did I cause this? Like, did I make her feel like she needed to leave? Maybe she sat there and thought about it. Like, do I really need to stay here right now? Like, if he doesn't love me, maybe I should just go. It's making me lean the other direction about someone took her.
Okay.
But there's just, if someone took her, it would have to have been someone she knew. And it's freaking me out.
Chris was not imploring us to go find his family. He was not giving us additional tips to follow up on. He did not honestly seem interested in the investigation. So Special Agent Coder needed Chris to try and explain his actions. If he is hoping and believing that they're still alive, so why would you start talking about them in past tense? But I felt like Chris was not being honest and was not telling the complete story. At that point, Special Agent Coder really needed to kind of turn up the heat.
I see pictures of you from a few years ago, and I see you standing before me now. Okay, you've gotten pretty fit. Okay, you can imagine when guys start cheating or want to cheat, that's what happens. Yes. Tell me about it.
I did not cheat on my wife.
Would you take a polygraph?
Sure.
Okay.
I definitely needed to know what was the reason behind wanting to possibly end his marriage. If you weren't having an affair, Chris, what is it? But his interview with Special Agent Coder was over close to 3 hours. It was past 10 o'clock. He's tired. It's not an ideal situation to try and start a polygraph that can be very extensive. And we really wanted to start fresh with him. So at that point, we asked Chris if he would come back the next day for a polygraph. When Chris left that evening, investigators spent the entire evening combing through his computer records, cell phone records, and what we learned from that analysis really changed the entire course of the investigation.
But when Christopher called us and he said, I said, do you want us to come down now? He said, tell Dad I need him. Tell Dad I need him to come down. I said, what about me? He said, no, Mom, just stay. Just send Dad. And he picked him up at the airport, and they drove to the police station. And Chris still didn't say anything to him.
When Chris arrived for the polygraph that morning, he was with his father that he had just picked up from the airport. So Special Agent Coder brought his father, Ronnie Watts, down to another room.
Shortly before Agent Tammy Lee from the CBI is going to conduct this polygraph examination, investigators learned information that they had not known before. We looked at Watts's phone. It was revealed to investigators through text messages, photographs, emails, that he very clearly and for quite a period of time had been having an affair with a co-worker at the oil company that he worked at. He had been lying to Graham Coder the day before. If you're going to be deceitful with law enforcement about that, what else have you been deceitful about?
Untuk sobat semua, sebelum lanjut ada baiknya untuk mengklik terlebih dahulu tombol like, share, dan subscribe, serta tombol notifikasinya, agar tak ketinggalan update kisah nyata tak biasa dari K-Channel selanjutnya.
So, I met Chris at work, probably around the beginning of June. He informed me that he did have 2 daughters. He also told me that he was currently in the process of a separation from his wife. And that's how it started.
Sure. Okay. And then did the relationship develop beyond friendship?
Yes.
Nicole Kessinger is one of Chris Watts' co-workers in Weld County. When she first meets Chris, she's under the impression that he's just a young bachelor who's looking for love. Chris ends up telling her, you know, I am married right now, and I do have 2 young daughters at home.
I think Nicole Kessinger saw in Chris exactly what the world saw in Chris. He was an all-around nice guy, or that was the mask that he portrayed. To Chris Watts, Nicole Kessinger was a breath of fresh air. She was not Shanann. She wasn't the wife. She wasn't the mother. She had nothing tying her down. She was different.
He was sort of in these routines with Shanann and the girls that had become, you know, monotonous. Nikki Kessinger was listening to him and respecting him in a way that he had never felt before. I think at that point, it was an easy decision for him to start an affair.
They're texting almost nonstop, even though he's at home with his wife and his children. Shanann has no clue what's going on behind her back.
I like that shirt. So pink means...
That's just the test.
I know. It just says the pink is going to be girls.
I know. Just the test.
That's awesome.
Guess what, girls? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what, Cece? There's a baby in Mommy's belly.
Mommy, your belly.
It's in Mommy's belly, you silly.
This is in my belly.
Hey, Bella, how many babies do I have in my belly?
5.
Whoa.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
That's a lot of babies.
No, I don't think he was. I think it was a shock to him. And he said that they have been talking about divorce, that, you know, they are not compatible anymore, and he was not happy anymore. And I finally thought, he's finally seen the light.
Bella, Cece, my dad, and I are flying to North Carolina for 6 weeks. We're going to go spend time with our families and friends and everything else. And Chris will be coming at the end of July. One day Chris can travel that long with us.
Hi! Hi, Nana! Careful! Oh my goodness.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nana. And Onyx. Happy birthday
right.
Wow. Go get Uncle Frankie. Go get Uncle Frankie.
Shanann goes away thinking that this is a way to reset the relationship, not knowing that it was actually igniting and fueling the relationship that Chris has with Nicole.
The perfect storm of factors that the affair began when Shanann and the girls left for the summer for 6 weeks.
Chris is taking Nicole out on dates. This is his opportunity to fully date without any eyes watching him.
You're so damn sexy.
Thank you so much for coming out here with me, Christopher. I'm having a wonderful time. You mean a lot to me, and I'm glad that you're having a blast. I am so out of breath.
Nicole Kessinger and Chris Watts had a dating life that was probably something like, 20-somethings would do.
Yeah, intoxication of an affair is a very, very powerful drug. It's a powerful drug.
Chris is taking illicit photos of Nicole and saving them to his phone in a secret app, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to continue to explore this relationship.
Everything was sunshine and roses, and I can't wait to see you again, and I'm addicted to you, and everything a young suitor would say to a woman when he first starts dating her.
Shanann is in North Carolina with Bella and Cece. Multiple times she's trying to reach Chris. She's calling, she's texting him, and many of the times he's not responding at all or as quickly as he normally would. That's when Shanann starts to realize something's off here. There's something else going on.
And I flew out there for a week so I could fly back with them.
Airplane. I know.
Hey everybody, so this is the girls' first time to the beach.
Chris shows up and he's pretty distant to Shanann.
North Carolina, Chris is on his phone a lot.
Shanann was starting to question why he was being so distant.
Who are you texting? Because it was a big, huge red flag.
She's texting her friend saying he's not only being weird when he was at home, but now Chris isn't even being physically close to me, even though we've been apart for so long.
Miss Uncle Frankie.
It's time to return to regular life. Shanann set up a gender reveal party where friends, family, neighbors were to come and find out that they were going to be having this baby boy. But she's starting to realize something's going wrong here. This is supposed to be an incredibly happy time for both of them.
New interest, his mind was with another woman.
She's suspecting that maybe he's cheating on her.
Shortly after Shanann cancels the gender reveal party, she goes on a business trip to Arizona.
They go out to a restaurant. Chris wines and dines Nicole, but then realizes he doesn't have any way to pay for the meal other than with the credit card he shares with Shanann.
Shanann receives a notification about a credit card that Chris had used at the Lazy Dog restaurant that exceeded the amount of money that a normal person would use on his own meal.
And she's thinking there's no way that one person ate and drank $60 worth of food. It was the first moment Shanann felt like she had proof something else was going on. It's early in the morning when her friend Nicole Atkinson drops her off at her home. Nicole Atkinson was under the impression that she was taking Shanann home to a place that should be a place of comfort, a place of security. There's no way she could have known that she was actually dropping her off to her final moments on Earth.
I woke her up after I got ready and everything, and then we had talks about selling the house and about separation and
you of anything?
I mean, being a woman, I mean, she's like, is there somebody else? I'm like, no, there's nobody else. I mean, this is me talking to you about this. This isn't like somebody came into my life and took me from you. This is, me talking to you.
Is your first name Christopher?
Yes.
Did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance?
No.
Are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann?
No.
Did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance?
No.
Chris Watts scored a -18. He failed every question on the test.
That deception on that polygraph causes Watts to become our primary suspect.
So I brought Brandon here because we want to talk to you about the results, okay? So, it is completely clear that you were not honest during the testing. I think you already know that. You did not pass the polygraph test.
Okay.
Okay. So now we need to talk about what actually happened. I feel like you're probably ready to do that.
I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise. Chris, I know. Stop. Just stop for a minute. Take a deep breath.
So can you start from the beginning and tell us what happened?
Everything that I've told you, I did not lie on this polygraph. I don't know how much I could tell you right now. Like, I did not.
It's not even an option right now because you did not pass the polygraph. So I know you were being accepted. So that's not even an issue right now. The issue right now is what happened to Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. That's the issue right now.
Okay.
Okay. So let's talk about that.
Like, I want them back home. Like.
But you know they're not coming back home. You know that.
I don't know in the back of my head. I hope they come back home. So we need to talk about that, okay? I cheated on her. I know. I didn't hurt her. I cheated on her. I hurt her emotionally. I cheated on her. Okay, get back to your wife and your daughters. Okay.
These are your baby girls. And you have not shed one tear.
Don't look into that like I don't love my kids.
Tell me,
my
explain
wife.
to me. You're crying with your wife that you're leaving her.
Yeah.
But you don't cry that your two little baby girls.
I'm hoping they're still around somewhere. I'm hoping they're still somewhere. I love those girls to death.
Then show us that. Vilifying Shanann. It's a technique that we can use to eventually get the actual truth. Did Shanann do something to them, and then did you feel like you had to do something to Shanann?
Can I talk to my dad or something? Absolutely. Come on. Do you want to bring him in here?
Special Agent Coder and I agreed to allow Chris's father to come into the room. As soon as Ronnie entered the room, Special Agent Coder and I had pretty much ran to the observation room in order to watch the interview. It was definitely a make or break moment. They were speaking very quietly, so everyone in the command post was silent.
Don't listen along with anything, or? It's polygraph. Failed it. So, I mean, they're not going to let me go. They know I had an affair. I can't complain about that. And when we had that conversation that morning, it was emotional and told her about separation and everything like that. I want to protect her. She hurt him, yeah. And then, well, now, I thought about her. You're a girl. So she started her begins. She won. She's smiling. She's gone. Hair blue. Both of them. Both of them dead. I freaked out and shit me.
It's real that he admitted that the girls are dead and that he killed Shanann.
Rupanya cara agen CBI Jamie Lee yang memancing Chris dengan cara memojokkan Shanann dan mempertanyakan pada Chris apakah Shanann telah melakukan sesuatu yang buruk lebih dulu hingga memicu Chris untuk melakukan hal yang sama, ternyata berhasil hingga Chris buka suara dan terungkap bahwa Shanann dan dua putrinya sudah tiada. Dan Chris tentu saja menyalahkan Shanann yang telah lebih dulu melakukan hal yang buruk pada dua putrinya, hingga menyurut emosi Chris untuk melakukan hal yang sama pada Shanann.
He describes feeling extremely angry, so he basically grabs Shanann, throws her down on the bed, and strikes her right on Cece's bed, is what he said.
This was him seizing upon an opportunity to shift the blame away from himself as much as he could and towards somebody that no longer could defend herself.
He had already been interrogated 7 hours prior to that. He had already let the police go into his home, search everything. He was going in for another interrogation. The next thing, after 5 hours, they called Ronnie and said that your son wants to talk to you before he tells us anything. And that's when Christopher broke down and cried and said, "I'm sorry, Dad." He said, "I went into a rage and I killed her after she killed Cece and Bella."
Okay. They're gone. There's no bringing them back.
Well, where are they?
Not that first location I went to that day. The problem is I don't even know if they believe me or not. Married and something or that was what Chanel was wrapped in. That face. That's not the horror about their oil tank. Are they in the tanks? They're like, it's just a half to the top. They're like 20-foot tanks.
I just couldn't believe a father could do something so horrible to his children and his wife.
When Chris told his father that Shanann had killed the girls and that he had then killed Shanann, even though I didn't necessarily believe his version of events and I didn't buy into his description of how it went down.
I did not believe at all that Shanann had done anything to her family to hurt them. I believed that Chris murdered his entire family. Shanann's pregnant, she's exhausted. I don't believe she's gonna wake up, after 2-3 hours of being home from a trip, then to go for her 2 daughters. To me, that made no sense at all.
You got a new life. And the only way to get that new life was to get rid of the old life. And I think that you killed these girls before their mom came home. And they shut down. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up. So either you're this monster, I just want this young hot girlfriend, so I'm gonna kill everyone and hope it works out, or something. So I think we're very, very close to the truth, but not quite there yet. So if you're not that monster, I'm not a monster. I didn't kill my babies. Okay.
At the conclusion of the interrogation, officers came in, placed Chris Watts in handcuffs, took him out to a patrol car, and he was transported to the Weld County Jail.
I'm going to have you face that wall over there. Okay, just face it.
Based on his statements, we had probable cause to believe that he had committed the crime of murder. That's the legal threshold that we need to get to arrest him.
In a video confession days later, Watts told his father he murdered Shanann in a fit of rage, claiming she killed their children.
I was completely disgusted. I felt sick. But at the same time, I was like, we need to go get them. We need to go get them right now.
11 o'clock at night, we started to excavate the dirt. We wanted to get Shannon out of the ground. In the numerous excavations I've done, bodies are usually laid out. Shannon was curled up as if just thrown in. It was almost discarded like trash and then covered with dirt. Chris Watts said that the children were in the oil tanks. The problem is getting them out of those tankers was a very complicated process that we knew. It was now 1:30 at night. We weren't going to be able to do that evening.
At this point, we have strong reason to believe that we know where the bodies of the children are, and recovery efforts are in process on that.
The question remains, where are their bodies?
He allegedly told investigators where to find their bodies on a property owned by the company he worked for.
When we were at the oil site on the morning of the 16th, I think everybody there kind of arrived with this sense of dread because you know what the mission is. You know that you're recovering the bodies of 2 small children.
This is going to be a huge undertaking to drain these tanks.
We questioned whether small children would fit through that opening. We just went up and opened the inlet, and we found a tuft of hair along the inside of one of the oil tank inlets, and then we knew.
The first tank was the one that had Cece in it. She was still in her nightgown. She'd just gone to bed. The second tank had Bella inside. I can't get that image out of my head.
Shannon's body was found in a shallow grave near the girls' bodies, submerged for days in storage tanks filled with crude oil.
You had to break their bones to get them in there.
And when they tried to lift the girls up, their skin came off.
Yeah, she was at the bottom of the drum, and their skin was falling off as they were trying to get them out. Everybody needed so much therapy after that. Our hearts just go out to all of them that work so damn hard on this case.
Say thank you, Nana Papa.
Thank you, Nana Papa.
We love it.
I love it.
I don't see how somebody who loves their family could even possibly do something like that.
What a horrible, horrible thought that is. Looking at those oil tanks and seeing the size of the hatch at the top, and then to have to pull them out of that oil, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy.
I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've investigated or been a part of an investigation of over 170 homicides. And I don't get emotional very often. I was not able to detach myself from this.
Ronnie called Jamie and told them they found their bodies. And they rushed over here. Nobody told me anything until they walked through the door. And they told me what happened, and I just fell to the floor. I just fell to the floor. It was unbelievable. And it's been unbelievable ever since.
Setelah berita tentang Shannon dan 2 putrinya ternyata sudah tiada yang ditayangkan di berbagai media, ratusan warga berdatangan ke kediaman keluarga Watts. Mereka semua turut berduka dan mendoakan Shannon dan 2 putrinya sambil membawa bunga dan menyalakan lilin.
Thank you everyone for coming out to the candlelight visual and saying all your prayers. They are greatly appreciated. And keep the prayers coming for our family.
Pengakuan Chris yang mengatakan bahwa Shannon telah melakukan hal yang buruk pada putri mereka menjadi berita utama yang mengejutkan di berbagai media. Dan kini, keluarga Shannon yang tengah berduka menanggung dampak buruk dari berita tersebut.
is so much being said online in the dozens of Facebook groups and the tens of thousands of followers of these Facebook groups, these members. Everyone is tearing each piece of interaction between this couple.
There are people out there who believe he is innocent.
And those conspiracy theorists are using social media to relentlessly attack Shanann's family.
Shanann's father, Frank Ruzek, says his daughter and his grandchildren have been ridiculed, demeaned, slandered, and mocked in the most vicious ways you can imagine.
Please just stop. And get on with your lives. Leave ours alone.
Tetapi semua itu berubah seketika. Setelah pada akhirnya, jawaban atas kebenaran yang sesungguhnya terungkap.
The pathologist concluded that Shanann Watts had died from asphyxiation due to manual strangulation.
The most significant injuries that we found during the autopsy were injuries to Bella. She had injuries which suggested that she fought back as somebody covered her airway. The idea of her fighting for her life as somebody snuffed out her breath was hard to accept.
And then Chris had told us that he had witnessed Shanann CC, but the pathologist determined that she died from asphyxiation due to manual smothering. We were able to prove through that autopsy that what Chris told us about what Shanann had done to CC was false and that he had lied to us. He had admitted that he had his entire family, but he had never told us what really happened to Bella and Celeste that night.
I love you, girl. I got the baby a hug. You want to give the baby a hug?
Shanann loved her girls and that she didn't have anything to do with murders.
We left the autopsies feeling that Chris Watts was solely responsible for the deaths of his entire family.
Under Colorado law, an unborn child can't be the victim's side, but there has to be a recognition that he killed his unborn son. His unborn son is named Nico. They had named him that. So we charged him with the only charge available to us under Colorado law to give us that recognition that Nico was also a victim of his father's acts.
Christopher Watts has pleaded guilty to his pregnant wife Shanann and two young daughters, Bella and Celeste, and their unborn son Nico.
Yes. And that scares me to death. It scares me to death to think that he could have done all of this. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there right now. But I don't see why he's pleading guilty. I wouldn't. I'd fight. I'd fight to the end.
The husband of a missing pregnant woman is in jail and now charged with her murder.
Mr. Watts, why did you kill your wife and two children?
Same question I've had. Why?
How could you?
Why?
I don't even know what to say to that.
Why didn't you just walk out the door? We found out what you did. Why did you do it? There's nothing that I can imagine why you would do that to your family. You want another life, go open the door and leave.
Today, prosecutors filed a motion requesting fingerprints, cheek swabs, and hand pictures from Chris Watts. They believe Watts is responsible for all three deaths.
Despite portraying a happy family on social media, text messages between Shanann and Watts in the weeks leading up to the murders showed a fractured relationship. Prosecutors say Watts killed his family because of an affair he was having with the co-worker Nicole Kessinger.
We knew that there was another woman who was romantically involved with Chris Watts. As soon as we got her name, she called in to the tip line and said, "Hey, I'm the other woman," essentially. And after investigating, we were confident that she had no role to play in this tragic event.
Did you ever say anything to him about,
Never.
anything about his kids being a problem? Anything about his wife being a problem?
Never. This shocked me just as much as I think it shocked the rest of the world. I really thought she left. I was like, let her fucking go. You know? come back in a day. She'll get right. Let her cool down. She'll be here. It'll be okay. You know, like, had me convinced, like, I think she's just upset. And then
Shanann knew the marriage was in trouble. She sent Chris a self-help book. She wanted to go to counseling, whereas Chris's solution for dealing with the problem was to plot murder.
I think a lot of people are going to probably assume that I was the catalyst for his movement, but I don't think, you know, not me, like, instructing him, but him deciding to do that because he had me in his life and because he was so, like, infatuated with what we had going on. Wipe out your family to be with me. Like, hey, my family just disappeared, and you think that I'm going to just not be concerned about that?
Do you have any objections to us looking at everything in your phone?
We want him to get life in prison. It was like they already knew he was guilty. I just want the truth. That's it. And I know Chris would take responsibility. And I guess maybe he is. I don't know. I just can't see him doing that.
Mr. Watts entered a plea of guilty to all 9 counts. Those counts include murder in the first degree after deliberation as to Shanann Watts, murder in the first degree as to Bella Watts, murder in the first degree as to Celeste Watts, unlawful termination of a pregnancy as it relates to Nico Watts. The one deal that he made for himself was that if he pled guilty to all those charges, that he would not be subject to the death penalty.
I need someone to defend him if he did not do this. Do they have the evidence? He's my son. I got to do everything. I've got to do everything I can to help, to make sure that he is defended properly. But he said this was his decision, so I don't know. He did a horrible, if that comes to pass that he did this, then I still love him. He's my son. And I will always love him. And a lot of people don't understand that. And I don't understand that, why they don't.
Sejak kematian Shanann, Bella, Celeste, dan Nico, hingga kasus ini tengah bergulir di persidangan yang menjadi sorotan dunia. Berbagai karangan bunga, boneka-boneka, dan hadiah-hadiah lainnya terus berdatangan membanjiri rumah keluarga Watts yang dikirim oleh warga masyarakat dari dalam dan luar negeri yang turut berduka atas peristiwa tragis ini.
This is the heartless one, the evil monster, who dare you take the lives of my daughters Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I trusted you to take care of them, not them, and they also trusted you. The heartless monster, and then you take them out like trash. I seen the videotape. You buried my daughter Shanann and Nico in a shallow grave, and then you put Bella and Celeste in huge containers of crude oil. You heartless monster. This is hard to say, but may God have mercy on your soul.
In the blink of an eye, you took away my whole world, the people that mattered to me the most. Everything in my life I loved, your children. They trusted you. They loved you. They looked up to you because you promised to keep them safe. All I do is ask myself why. Why would you do this? Did you really think that this was your best option, to throw away your family like they were garbage? They deserve better and you know it. I hope you spend the rest of your life staring at the ceiling every night, being haunted by what you've done.
Our families have been irreparably broken by the needless deaths of Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico. This is something we will never get over. Now to my son Christopher, I have known you since the day you were born into this world. I have watched you grow from a quiet and sweet, curious child. You have
We have loved you from the beginning, and we still love you now. As your mother, Chris, I have always loved you, and I still do. I hate what has happened. Your father and sister and I are struggling to understand why, but we will remain faithful as your family, just as God remains faithful.
Why did this have to happen? How could a seemingly normal husband and father annihilate his entire family? For what? The defendant coldly and deliberately ended 4 lives. Not in a fit of rage, not by way of accident, but in a calculated and sickening manner. His motive was simple, Your Honor. He had a desire for a fresh start, to begin a relationship with a new love that overpowered all decency and feelings for his wife, his daughters, and unborn son. While Shanann texted the defendant over and over again in the days and weeks leading up to her death, attempting to save her marriage, he contacted a realtor to start discussing the selling of his house, and he texted with his girlfriend about their future. None of this answers the questions of why, however. If he was this happy and wanted a new start, get a divorce. You don't annihilate your family and throw them away like garbage. Why did Nico, Celeste, Bella, and Shanann have to lose their lives in order for him to get what he wanted? It was certainly eligible for the death penalty in this case, under the existing law in the state of Colorado. As you heard, Shanann's family strongly opposed my office seeking the death penalty. In the end, the Rusick family was much more merciful towards him than he was towards his wife, his daughters, and his unborn son. Prison for the remainder of his life is exactly where he belongs, murdering his entire family. Thank you.
Is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen. Deputies, I would respectfully ask that you take this defendant into custody and have him serve the rest of his life in the Department of Corrections.
But I would like to know what triggered it. Can a perfectly normal young man, and he's normal, he was normal, but he wasn't evaluated when he came into the system. How does this happen? How did this happen? And I go back in my mind thinking, was there something I didn't pick up with on Chris? But I can't think of anything except he was quiet. I would say, Christopher, I need to know what happened that night. I need to know what happened. I've got to get these thoughts out of my head. What I think could have happened, but I need to know.
Tonight, Watts sits in a Wisconsin prison serving his 3 life sentences without any possibility of parole.
The district attorney told us is that they considered making a part of the plea agreement that Christopher Watts would have to confess more about what happened that night.
I asked them, do you know what happened? They said, no. We don't. Only person that knows what happened is Chris.
More than 3 months after confessing to murdering his pregnant wife and 2 daughters, Chris Watts is sharing new details about the night he killed them in his home in Frederick. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation says last month in a Wisconsin prison, Watts met with federal and local investigators. According to the CBI, he offered new information about the murders of his pregnant wife Shanann and daughters Bella and Celeste.
So myself, Special Agent Coder, and Detective Baumover, we flew to Wisconsin, where Chris was being held, and have one last conversation with him. I needed to hear him say that Shanann did not murder her children. I needed to have that come out of his mouth.
Are you available to talk to us? Yeah. Okay. The last time we talked about was where the girls were, but we never really got to talk about that night. What happened?
He talked about having the conversation while he's sitting on her and she's telling him to get off. You know, you're hurting the baby. And he doesn't get off. And at one point she tells him, you're never going to see the kids again. And that's immediately when he starts killing her.
So what happened next?
Bella understood what was happening or saw what was happening. In Chris's mind, what do you do with your daughter that just is witnessing your wife dead on the bed? Did he feel like he had no other way to get out of this without doing the same to his daughters?
She followed you and you put Shanann in the truck. And then what?
Well, they were in the back seat.
So what'd you do?
I put a trash bag on one end and on her feet, on her head. So they didn't have to see.
That the girls were alive when he drove them out to the oil site.
They were alive in your truck. You now had an hour to drive out to the oil site, and at no point did he decide to spare their lives, and it made no sense to us.
Took Shanann out, then what were the girls doing when we were getting out? Just sitting in the truck. CC was hers.
He used his hands to cover her mouth and her nose and smothered her to death. As soon as he knew that Cece was dead, he took her out of the truck. All the while, Bella is sitting in the truck, watching her dad walk up to the oil tank and drop her sister inside.
And then went down to Bella. Tell me what happened there.
Did the same thing. If I never met Nikki, would I ever have thought our relationship was bad? Probably not.
I think the hardest thing for us right now, honest to God, is the way they died. It was inhumane, and it was really bad torture for my granddaughter Bella to watch her sister, her best friend. We were thinking that he killed them in their sleep in the bed. That would have been better to swallow. I mean, they weren't even cold yet, and they were getting pushed in the tank.
You know, it just don't make any sense.
He could have just gotten a divorce.
Chris told us that every night when he closes his eyes, he hears Bella yell, "Daddy, no." I feel like it's kind of what he deserves. I hope he hears that every night.
I think the comments that were made from his family about our daughter prior to the court hearing bothers me every day. That they were okay that Chris killed Shannon, but he would never kill his children. I don't think that's okay at all. I don't think you have the right to take anybody's life. Who the hell gave you that right?
God, I'm so sorry this happened. You know, for both our families, because we both lost everything. You know, they lost a daughter, we lost our son. We lost our grandchildren. We all lost. Everybody did. And you'll never get it back. And they were precious. They were so, so precious.
You know, he didn't even cry for them. Like, I've cried more for them than he has. Like, who does that?
When you say, Dr. Phil, who does this? Who does this is a malignant, narcissist psychopath. That's what makes these people so dangerous.
He's not the sociopath next door. He's not the psychopath. He didn't kill little small animals. He didn't do any of these things. He was a good child. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything that was abnormal about him, except he was socially awkward. You know, he had trouble socializing, but so did I when I was younger. I think you learn that as you grow, and I think he felt a little bit more comfortable in his skin, and he just, I don't think he just had the right person at his side. I don't. That relationship was toxic from the very beginning.
This was one of the worst cases I've ever had in 19 years of police work. This one does not make sense to me.
It was just too strange, too baffling for it not to leave a lasting impact in your head about how does this happen?
I can go to sleep every night knowing that the defendant will never walk this earth again.
Dan kabar terakhir tentang Chris Watts yang diberitakan media pada bulan Mei 2023, ia berada di lembaga pemasyarakatan Dodge di Waupun, Wisconsin untuk menjalankan hukuman seumur hidupnya tanpa pembebasan bersyarat dengan standar keamanan maksimum. Chris menghabiskan 23 jam sehari dalam penguncian. Dia hanya bisa meninggalkan selnya hanya untuk mandi atau berolahraga selama 1 jam sehari. Yang boleh ia miliki di selnya hanyalah Alkitab dan foto keluarga yang ia hancurkan. Dan dalam suratnya yang ia kirimkan kepada ibunya, Chris mengatakan bahwa ia selalu mendoakan istri dan anak-anaknya, serta memohon pengampunan Tuhan setiap harinya. Pada bulan November 2022, rumahnya yang berada di Frederick, Colorado, terjual seharga $600.000 Amerika. Sementara kabar tentang Nicole Kessinger yang sempat mencari gaun pengantin 9 hari sebelum peristiwa tragis itu terjadi, ia telah pindah dari rumahnya di Arvado, Colorado dengan identitas baru. Untuk sobat semua, salam sehat, sukses dan bahagia selalu bersama keluarga sobat di rumah. Dan berikut sejumlah referensi dalam dokumenter kisah nyata K-Channel kali ini. Dan silakan sobat berbagi pendapatnya dengan sikap bijak, serta nantikan dokumenter kisah nyata dunia dari K-Channel selanjutnya.